My childhood friend cheated on her fiancé with my brother. I revealed it at the wedding and lost everything. My childhood friend Lacey, 29F, and I, 28F, have known each other since before we could walk. Our moms, Karen and Diane, were college roommates who stayed close after graduation. They ended up buying houses on the same street in our small town of Millbrook, determined to raise their kids together. Lacey and I were born just 6 months apart, and from day one, we were inseparable. Our earliest memories are of splashing in kiddie pools in each other's backyards, learning to ride bikes together, and crashing into each other more times than I can count, and having sleepovers every weekend. We even had a secret hideout in the woods behind our houses, a rickety treehouse that Lacey's dad built for us when we were 8. We spent countless hours up there, sharing secrets and dreaming about our futures. As we grew older, our bond only strengthened. We navigated the awkward middle school years together, giggling over our first crushes and comforting each other through our first heartbreaks. In high school, we joined the same clubs and even double-dated to prom. Lacey was always the more outgoing one, captain of the cheerleading squad and voted most likely to succeed. I was quieter, more focused on academics, but Lacey never let our different interests come between us. Even when we went to different colleges, Lacey to State University to study business, and me to Westfield College for English literature, we stayed close. We'd call each other every Sunday night without fail, filling each other in on our week's adventures. During breaks, we'd meet up halfway between our schools at this little diner called Rosie's, where we'd spend hours catching up over greasy burgers and milkshakes. After graduation, we both moved back to Millbrook. It just felt right, coming back to our roots. We got an apartment together, and it was like old times. Lacey started her job at a marketing firm, while I began teaching at our old high school. Our lives were busy, but we always made time for our weekly wine and movie nights. Things started to change when my older brother, Johnny, 31M, moved back to town after his divorce. Johnny had always been the golden child in our family, charming, successful, and popular. He's 5 years older than me, so growing up, he was always in a different world. I remember Lacey having a massive crush on him when we were teenagers, but Johnny barely noticed us back then. Johnny's divorce hit him hard. He'd married his college sweetheart, Megan, right after graduation, and they seemed perfect together. But after 7 years, things fell apart. Johnny never gave us the full story, just said they'd grown apart. He moved back to Millbrook to find himself, which mostly seemed to involve crashing on our couch and raiding our fridge. At first, I was annoyed by Johnny's constant presence in our apartment. But Lacey seemed to enjoy having him around. She'd laugh at all his jokes, touch his arm when they talked, and I noticed her dressing up more when she knew he'd be over. I didn't think much of it at first. Lacey had always been a bit of a flirt, and I figured she was just trying to cheer Johnny up. But then I started noticing little things. Hush phone conversations that would stop abruptly when I entered the room. Lacey suddenly being too busy to hang out when Johnny was in town. Johnny acting weird around me, avoiding eye contact and changing the subject whenever I mentioned Lacey. About 6 months ago, Lacey met a guy named Tyler, 30M, at work. He was new to the marketing firm, and they hit it off immediately. Lacey came home gushing about him after their first date, how kind he was, how he made her laugh, how he wanted the same things in life that she did. Things moved quickly between them. Within 3 months, they were engaged. I was happy for Lacey, but something felt off. She didn't seem as excited about the wedding as I expected her to be. When we went dress shopping, she seemed distracted. When we discussed wedding plans, her enthusiasm felt forced. I chalked it up to pre-wedding jitters and tried to be supportive. 2 weeks before the wedding, I came home early from work with a splitting headache. As I walked into the apartment, I heard noises coming from Lacey's room. Thinking she might be sick, I knocked on the door. The noises stopped abruptly, and after a moment, Lacey called out that she was fine. But then I heard a man's voice, Johnny's voice. My heart dropped. I stood there, frozen, as Lacey opened the door. Her hair was messed up, her lips swollen. Johnny was sitting on her bed, hastily pulling on his shirt. The look on their faces said it all. I was shocked and angry. I confronted them, and they admitted they'd been having an affair for months. Lacey begged me not to tell Tyler, saying she loved him and the affair with Johnny was just a mistake. Johnny looked guilty but didn't say much. I was torn. Lacey was my best friend, the person I'd shared everything with for as long as I could remember. But what she was doing was wrong. Tyler seemed like a genuinely good guy, and he didn't deserve this. I told Lacey she needed to come clean to Tyler or I would. She promised she would, but as the wedding day approached, I realized she hadn't said anything. The day of the wedding arrived. I helped Lacey get ready, my stomach in knots the entire time. As I zipped up her dress, I asked her one last time if she'd told Tyler. She avoided my eyes and said she couldn't do it, that it would ruin everything. She swore the thing with Johnny was over and begged me to keep her secret. I stood there, watching my best friend prepare to walk down the aisle and lie to the man she was about to marry. I thought about all our years of friendship, all the secrets we'd shared, all the times we'd sworn to always have each other's backs. But I also thought about Tyler, about the life he thought he was starting, built on a foundation of lies. When it was time for the maid of honor speech, I stood up, my hands shaking. I looked at Lacey, radiant in her white dress, and at Johnny, shifting uncomfortably in his seat. I thought about all the people in the room, our families, our friends, people who had watched Lacey and me grow up together. And I made a decision. I told everyone about Lacey's affair with Johnny. The room went silent, and then chaos erupted. Tyler stormed out, his face a mask of hurt and anger. Lacey burst into tears, mascara streaming down her face. Johnny tried to explain himself to our shocked parents. In the aftermath, Lacey's family and some of our mutual friends are furious with me. They say I ruined Lacey's life and humiliated her in front of everyone. My parents are disappointed in both Johnny and me. Tyler thanked me for telling the truth but said he never wanted to see any of us again. I stand by my decision to expose the affair, but seeing the fallout, I'm starting to wonder if I went too far. Should I have found another way to handle it? Was I wrong to destroy years of friendship and family relationships in one moment? Ida for exposing my childhood friend's affair with my brother at her wedding? Edit. Thank you all for your responses. I'm overwhelmed by the support and advice. I'll post an update soon. Update 1. It's been a month since the wedding fiasco, and I wanted to update you all on the situation. First, I want to thank everyone for their support and advice. It really helped me navigate this difficult time. The day after the wedding, Lacey showed up at my apartment. Her eyes were red and puffy, and she looked like she hadn't slept. She begged me to forgive her, saying she'd made a huge mistake and that she truly loved Tyler. As she talked, I remembered all the times we'd been there for each other, when her dad passed away suddenly during our senior year of high school, how I'd stayed with her for weeks, helping her mom with the funeral arrangements and just being there to hold her when she cried. Or when I bombed my first big teaching evaluation and was sure I was going to get fired, how Lacey had stayed up all night with me, helping me revise my lesson plans and boosting my confidence. But then I remembered the look on Tyler's face when I revealed the truth, and I knew I couldn't just forgive and forget. I told Lacey that while I understood she was upset, I couldn't forgive her for betraying not only Tyler but also our friendship. I asked her to leave and not contact me again. The look on her face as she left, a mixture of hurt, anger, and resignation, will stay with me for a long time. Johnny also tried to reach out. He left several voicemails, each one more desperate than the last. In the last one, he mentioned how when we were kids, he'd always looked out for me, how he'd scared off the bullies who picked on me in elementary school, how he taught me to drive in the empty parking lot of the abandoned mall on the edge of town. But those memories just made me angrier. How could he betray me like this, knowing how important Lacey was to me? I ignored all his calls. A week after the wedding, I received a surprising call from Tyler. He asked if we could meet for coffee. When we met at the local coffee shop, not our usual spot, but a new place on the other side of town, he thanked me again for telling the truth. He said that while the public revelation was shocking and embarrassing, he was glad to know the truth before he committed his life to Lacey. As we talked, I realized what a genuinely nice guy Tyler is. He told me about his childhood in foster care, how he'd worked his way through college, and how excited he'd been to start a family with Lacey. It made me even angrier at Lacey for what she'd done to him. Before we left, Tyler hesitated, then asked if we could stay in touch. I agreed, feeling a strange mix of guilt and hope. The fallout with my parents has been tough. Mom keeps calling, leaving tearful voicemails about how we need to heal as a family. Dad is more stoic, but I can hear the disappointment in his voice when we talk. They're upset with Johnny for the affair, but they're also angry with me for how I handled it. They keep pushing for a family meeting to sort things out, but I've refused. I'm not ready to face Johnny or hear any excuses. As for our mutual friends, it's been a mixed bag. Some, like our old high school friend Mia, have sided with Lacey. Mia sent me a long text about how I went too far, how true friends forgive each other. Others, like our college buddy Alex, have supported my decision. Alex even sent me a care package full of my favorite snacks and a note saying Lacey and Johnny got what they deserved. I've distanced myself from those who sided with Lacey. I realized they weren't true friends if they could condone such behavior. The hardest part has been dealing with the loss of my best friend. Despite everything, there are moments when I miss Lacey and our friendship. I'll see something funny and instinctively reach for my phone to text her, or I'll pass by our favorite ice cream shop and remember all the late-night runs we used to make. We had so many years of memories together, and it's strange not having her in my life. But then I remember her betrayal, and I know I made the right choice. I've thrown myself into work, taking on extra classes and starting a creative writing club at the high school. I've also started volunteering at the local animal shelter on weekends. The routine has been helping me cope with everything that's happened. There's one more thing I wanted to share. Last week, I received a letter from Lacey's mom, Diane. In it, she said that while she was initially angry with me, she now understands why I did what I did. She wrote about watching Lacey and me grow up together, how she'd always thought of me as a second daughter. She apologized for her reaction at the wedding and thanked me for being brave enough to tell the truth. She ended the letter by saying that no matter what happened between Lacey and me, I would always have a place in her heart. It was unexpected but helped me feel a bit better about my decision. That's all for now. I'll update again if anything significant happens. Thank you all again for your support. Update 2. It's been 3 months since my last update, and I have some surprising news to share. About a month ago, I ran into Tyler at Rosie's, the diner where Lacey and I used to meet up during college breaks. I was there grading papers, and he came in to grab a coffee before work. We got to talking, and before I knew it, 2 hours had passed. He asked if I wanted to grab dinner sometime, and despite my hesitation, I agreed. Since then, we've been seeing each other regularly. I want to be clear, nothing romantic happened right away. We started as friends, bonding over our shared experience and betrayal. Tyler is easy to talk to, and I found myself looking forward to our meetings. We'd meet at new places around town, deliberately avoiding spots that held memories of Lacey. During one of our dinners, Tyler opened up about his childhood. He told me about bouncing from foster home to foster home, never feeling like he belonged anywhere. He said that's why Lacey's betrayal hit him so hard. He thought he finally found a place to belong, a family to call his own. Hearing his story made me see him in a new light, and I realized I was developing feelings for him. Last week, after a movie night at my place, Tyler confessed that he had feelings for me too. We decided to give dating a try, but we're taking things very slowly. We're both still healing from what happened, and we don't want to rush into anything. As for Lacey and Johnny, I haven't heard from either of them directly. However, through the grapevine, aka my mom's weekly calls, I learned that Lacey moved to another state for a fresh start. Apparently, she's working for a nonprofit now, something about helping underprivileged kids. Part of me wants to be happy for her, but I'm not there yet. Johnny is still in town but has been keeping a low profile. Mom says he's been seeing a therapist, trying to work through his issues. My relationship with my parents is still strained. They're happy that I'm moving on with my life, but they keep pushing for reconciliation with Johnny. During our last phone call, Mom mentioned that Johnny asks about me all the time, that he misses his little sister. I'm not ready for that, and I'm not sure I ever will be. The most difficult part of this new development with Tyler is the guilt I sometimes feel. Even though Lacey betrayed both of us, there's a small part of me that feels like I'm betraying her by dating Tyler. I know it's irrational, but years of friendship are hard to erase. I still catch myself thinking about calling Lacey when something good happens, or when I need advice. Tyler and I have talked about these feelings openly. He understands and has similar thoughts sometimes. We've agreed to be patient with each other and communicate honestly about our feelings as we navigate this unexpected relationship. I'm cautiously optimistic about the future. For the first time in months, I feel like I'm moving forward instead of being stuck in the past. Tyler and I are planning a weekend trip to the coast next month, nothing fancy, just a chance to get away from everything and enjoy each other's company. I'll update again if there are any major developments. Thank you all for your continued support and advice. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my last update, and a lot has changed. I'm writing this final update to close this chapter of my life. Tyler and I are still together, and our relationship has grown stronger. We've worked through a lot of our issues and fears, and I can honestly say I'm happier than I've been in a long time. We recently moved in together, which was a big step for both of us. Our apartment is in a new part of town, away from the memories of my old place with Lacey. About 2 months ago, Lacey reached out to me via email. She apologized again for her actions and said she was in therapy, working on herself. She asked if we could meet to talk. After discussing it with Tyler, I agreed to meet her for coffee. We met at a neutral location, a coffee shop neither of us had been to before. The meeting was emotional and difficult. Lacey seemed genuinely remorseful and explained that she'd been struggling with commitment issues and self-destructive behavior for years. She talked about how her dad's sudden death had affected her more than she'd realized, how she'd always been afraid of losing people she loved. While I appreciated her honesty, I made it clear that our friendship could never be what it was. We ended the meeting on civil terms, agreeing to be polite if we ever ran into each other, but nothing more. As for Johnny, I finally agreed to talk to him last month. We met at the park where we used to play as kids. It was a tense conversation, but necessary. He apologized and tried to explain his actions, talking about how lost he'd felt after his divorce and how Lacey had been there for him. I told him that while I might forgive him someday, our relationship would never be the same. We're slowly working on rebuilding some form of relationship, but it's a long process. We've agreed to monthly dinners, just the two of us, to try and reconnect. My parents are relieved that I'm talking to Johnny again, even if it's limited. Our relationship has improved, but I've made it clear that they need to respect my boundaries when it comes to my personal life. Mom has stopped pushing for full reconciliation and seems to understand that healing takes time. Dad and I have started a tradition of watching old movies together on Sunday afternoons, something we used to do when I was a kid. It's been nice, reconnecting with them in small ways. Tyler and I have discussed the future, and while we're not rushing into anything, we both see a long-term commitment in our future. We've talked about marriage and kids, but we're taking things one day at a time. Tyler's been incredibly patient and understanding throughout this whole process. He's even encouraged me to write about my experiences, saying it might help others who've been through similar situations. Last week, I ran into Diane, Lacey's mom, at the grocery store. It was awkward at first, but then she hugged me and told me how proud she was of the woman I've become. She said that while she misses the friendship Lacey and I had, she understands why things happened the way they did. It was a bittersweet moment, but it gave me a sense of closure I didn't realize I needed. As for my career, I've been thriving at the high school. The creative writing club I started has really taken off, and I'm even considering writing a young adult novel based on some of the themes we've explored in the club. It's exciting to have a new passion project to focus on. I want to thank everyone who supported me through this journey. Your advice and kind words helped me more than you know. I'm closing this chapter of my life with a sense of peace and hope for the future. While the past year has been incredibly difficult, I've learned so much about myself, about forgiveness, and about the kind of person I want to be. I'm looking forward to what the future holds, both personally and professionally.